Arjun shuffled through the bustling streets, his shoulders drooping under the weight of his thoughts. At just 32, he felt like life had already defeated him. Once celebrated as the pride of his family, an exceptional student with a bright future, he now blended into the crowd, unrecognizable even to himself. Dreams that once burned bright had crumbled under the pressure of expectations, leaving in their place a failed business, shattered relationships, and a heart heavy with regret. Every day felt like a repeat of the last, a monotonous loop of surviving instead of living. He ignored calls from his parents, avoided texts from friends, and put on a brave face while his small apartment seemed to close in around him. One rainy evening, seeking refuge from the storm both outside and within, Arjun found himself sitting in the corner of his favorite cafe. He stared blankly out the window as raindrops raced down the glass. The rhythmic sound of rain was oddly comforting, muting the noise in his head. He sipped his lukewarm coffee, reflecting bitterly on how his life had spiraled out of control. Then, a quiet conversation from the next table broke through his thoughts. Two elderly men were deep in discussion, their voices calm, yet determined. "Life only gives you what you're brave enough to ask for," one of them said. His voice carried a gentle but undeniable wisdom. Arjun froze, the words hanging in the air. Brave enough to ask for? The phrase struck a chord deep within him. He realized he had spent years pointing fingers at everyone and everything for his struggles, his competitors for his business failure, his partner for their breakup, and fate for his misfortune. But never once had he paused to look inward. Never once had he confronted the fears holding him back. On the way home, rain drenched him to the bone. But something inside him had shifted. Those words echoed in his mind, over and over. By the time he reached his apartment, shivering and soaked, he knew he couldn't continue down the same path. That night, sitting on his bed, he made a decision. Enough was enough. The next morning, the alarm clock blared at 5 a.m. His instinct screamed at him to hit snooze, to roll back into bed. But this time, he didn't. He forced himself to get up. He didn't have a grand plan. Instead, he started small. He read a few pages of a self-improvement book, set one simple goal for the day, and walked around the block for fresh air. The first week was rough. His body resisted the early mornings, and his mind bombarded him with doubts. "Why even try?" it whispered. "You'll just fail all over again." But this time, Arjun didn't listen. He resisted the urge to quit and battled through the discomfort, determined to prove himself wrong. Days turned into weeks, and slowly but surely, things began to change. He revived his business, but with a fresh perspective. Instead of chasing quick profits, he focused on genuinely understanding his customers' needs. His authenticity resonated, and little by little, his business began to thrive. At home, he reached out to his family, this time with no excuses, just heartfelt apologies. The first call with his father wasn't easy. It was steeped in years of unspoken disappointment. But as time passed and conversations deepened, the cracks in their relationship started to mend. The real shift came months later. Arjun was invited to speak at a local event, sharing his story of climbing out of despair. Standing on the stage, he felt that familiar knot of fear in his stomach, the fear of being judged, of failing publicly. But then he looked at the audience, their faces filled with curiosity and hope. Something in him steadied. He spoke from the heart, holding nothing back. He shared the raw truth of his struggles, the sleepless nights, the moments of doubt, and the times he nearly gave up. When he finished, there was a brief silence. Then, applause erupted, filling the room. Looking out, Arjun saw people in tears, their faces shining with understanding and gratitude. They weren't just clapping for his story. They were clapping for themselves, for the hope he had rekindled in them. That night, as Arjun walked home, beneath the same rainy sky, he felt different. The rain no longer seemed heavy or suffocating. Instead, it felt refreshing, almost cleansing. His failures, he realized, weren't the end of the story. They were lessons. hard-won stepping stones that shaped him into someone stronger, someone who could inspire others. And as the rain fell softly around him, Arjun smiled. For the first time in years, he welcomed it. He knew now that even the darkest clouds could bring growth and renewal. That sometimes it takes hitting rock bottom to find the courage to rise up and chase your dreams once again. Life may not always go according to plan, but as Arjun learned, it's never too late to start over and create a new path for yourself. It may be scary and difficult, but facing your fears and asking for what you truly want can lead to unexpected opportunities and growth. So if you're feeling stuck or lost in life, remember the wise words of those two elderly men in the cafe. Life only gives you what you're brave enough to ask for. Don't let fear or doubt hold you.